So I want to do Discord with people. I want people to join on and be able to share their views on this channel. I don't really like the concept of this channel being just my opinion, whatever I have to say. I'd like for my audience to also have um, a seat at the table, for lack of better terms. So join the Discord and we can talk. So Turning Point USA wants to convince you that you need to work, that work is a necessity in life, that if you do not work, then you should die. That's what they really mean when they talk about work and necessitating work. So let's take a look at their argument as to why people need to work. Take a look.
Here's your daily freedom seed. Working is a huge part of who we are as people. Lately, it's become really popular to say humans shouldn't need to work to provide for themselves, that maybe we should institute universal basic income or have the state provide for people entirely.
Okay, so let me clarify because she's going really fast. So what she just said is that some people are considering universal basic income. Now, I'll give my defense as to why I think universal basic income is a great idea. I actually think that we should elaborate on universal basic income and expand the concept to different things. But I'll talk about that at the end of this video. For now, let me just clarify that what she's going to be arguing against here is universal basic income. So get ready for an argument against universal basic income.
Forever. But here's the truth. People need work to thrive. We may not have figured out all the answers yet, especially because only 30% of Americans report feeling passionate about their work and are strongly committed to their companies. But scientifically, we know this. Psychologists have studied.
But scientifically, because the last thing I mentioned was not scientific, even though it was scientific, even though 30% of the people are not satisfied with their work. That is science. That is science. But what is scientific is you don't preface, after giving something scientific, you don't preface the next thing by saying, well, this one's scientific though.
Strongly committed to their companies, but scientifically, we know this. Psychologists have studied the relationship between people and our jobs and have found that humans need work for several reasons. To find a sense of purpose, thrive in a community setting, impact the world in some way, face an intellectual challenge, or to achieve our goals are just a few reasons.
So let me just clarify about that. That is a capitalist mentality. That is a capitalist mentality. And I'll explain why it's a capitalist mentality at the end. Let's keep watching though.
We don't just work to make a living. Human beings also work to live with purpose. I'm Isabel Brown, and there's your ammo to win America's culture war. We need work to thrive as people.
We don't need work to thrive, because the whole concept of universal basic income is to make it so that we work less and less and less and less over time as automation produces more and more and more and more. Universal basic income, why is that so important to me? Well, because for one, it's the only way of distributing wealth, redistributing wealth, I should say. So you can let the markets distribute wealth, but the problem is markets don't distribute wealth efficiently. And so you need a universal basic income to basically accommodate for the errors that markets develop. And so I am a market socialist. I believe that markets should still exist. I think that, the whole concept of supply, demand, that should all be there still. Right? Pricing should still work the same way it normally does. The only difference is that the board of directors is, controlled by a democracy of the workers, not by a CEO instead. So universal basic income is a solution to socialism, market socialism, because market socialism is ultimately going to fail. Why? If you don't have a universal basic income, then what happens is a market socialist society would ultimately consolidate work with automation. The whole point of automation is to replace jobs. The whole point of automation is to technically eliminate jobs. And so over time, there will be less and less jobs available to the human for human capacity. We won't need humans anymore. We can use Boston Robotics robots, for example, to move things or to ship things, or to even you can use GPT-3 to think for you. Like eventually jobs will be consolidated. And so market socialism isn't going to distribute wealth completely the way we would want it to. And so you need some sort of universal basic income to accommodate for that. Now, when it comes to purpose in life, right? What's the purpose to life? Now, Schopenhauer, I think is his name, gave a really good answer to this. And that is that basically when all is said and done, when all of our needs are met, we're going to be enjoying art. What is art? Well, art is like science. Science is a liberal art. Math is an art. You have your arts, theater, watching movies, playing video games. Those are the things that we will be doing, playing sports, simulating struggle. I mean, that's playing a game, which is an art. These are all examples of things that we can do to define ourselves. And that definition that that identity that we create is where you find purpose. So I like math. I like making progressive politics videos. And I like identifying myself as someone, not by someone who does work, but someone who is a socialist or someone who is a mathematician, right? I tutor online sometimes. I tutor mathematics online sometimes. And I could define myself as a tutor, or I could define myself as a mathematician. Defining myself as a mathematician, though, has so much more meaning behind it, right? Whereas what she's trying to say is that our work provides things like this.
For several reasons. To find a sense of purpose, thrive in a community setting, impact the world in some way, face an intellectual challenge, or to achieve our goals are just a few reasons.
Now, you can do that in a socialist society by giving yourself a new identity, but that identity has to be separate from your work in a capitalist society. In a capitalist society like today, like if you want to identify yourself as someone, you want to find meaning right now in a capitalist society, you have to completely separate yourself from your work. Your work is not your identity. And those who find their identity in their work, they're ruining their lives. I know personally family members who would just dump their whole life into work, and they didn't find the meaning they were looking for, right? You can't find meaning that way. Bob Sawin, I don't know how to say your last name, sorry, says, aren't we supposed to be working just 15 hours a week by now? Yeah, exactly. This is the whole consolidation with automation. You have a bunch of workers that are working to replace themselves. That's their whole job. That their whole career in life is to build things that replace them. Like that's the part of the industrial revolution that we're in right now. And it's like we're in a post-capitalist society where we're trying to replace ourselves so that humans are no longer necessary in the workforce. And so as we do that, yeah, you're right. We should be lowering the number of hours per week that we should be working. And by now, I would say 15 hours a week would be, if we were to actually use those 15 hours towards beneficial things towards society. Like there are plenty of jobs out there that would justify 40 hours a week, but they're not good for society, like police forces and so forth. Bob says, Kayans said those, I think. Who, I don't know who Kayans is, sorry. Is that who this person is? Because, like this person, I'm not sure. But anyways, to finish this segment, there's really no purpose that can be found in work. And if you try to find purpose in work, let me just give you, please, some like personal advice. Find something fun to do. So universal basic income is absolutely necessary to tackle automation. And then you find your work. Yeah, what if you work for yourself? What do you mean by that? Do you mean like as a socialist in a social society or a capitalist society? Because in a capitalist society, working for yourself is still defining. You would define your identity in work, and that's problematic, because work ultimately in a capitalist society is the production of goods, and the production of goods doesn't generate value in life, but the experience of those goods can produce meaning in life. So, for example, people who produce paintball guns are not having a fun time. People who are using those paintball guns are probably having a fun time. And so even if you work by yourself and you produce your own guns and then you use those guns, it's the experience that you're looking for, that you want. So in a socialist society, yeah, we don't have these needs that we have to keep in. We don't have to be concerned about our needs, right? To each their needs, from each their abilities, to each their needs. That was Karl Marx's whole thing, right? And so when you get the needs met, then all of a sudden services and goods, there's a lot more meaning to it, because you know that those things are going out to people who need them or really want them, and they're not losing their health care because they're getting that thing. They're not losing food on the table because they get that thing,